Ken, I
Yo.
appreciate you sitting down with me.
Yeah, of course.
Recording a little of this conversation. So the overall premise of the series, it's called Blessing on the Journey. And it's a bit of an insight into kind of, what it's like to kind of quit your 9-to-5 day job and go chase the game professionally full time. And I call it Blessing on the Journey because, I really believe I'm, one, blessed and grateful for this opportunity. And then two, I believe that there's kind of people and circumstances that come into your life along the way and along the journey that really kind of help you along the way. And I would consider yourself and this overall gym community the blessings on that journey.
Well, thank you. We're very lucky to have you as part of the community for sure.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You want to give a quick intro about kind of like yourself, your background, lifetime?
Yeah. Ken MacDonald. I own Lifetime Performance. We've been in business since 2011. I started out playing pro golf after college. I played in college and then played pro for about 5 years, and gave it a shot. Did a lot of traveling. Played okay. I knew at that point at the end I wasn't going to make it, and my interests were starting to get more and more into the fitness component, the fitness realm, overall health and well-being. Yeah. And at the time I started doing it just as a means to make extra money. Personal training, that is, and then I realized, I really do like this. There's a connection here between good golf and feeling good and being strong and flexible. Yep. So I also knew I had to think about some sort of transition from golf into the real world in a way, and it just kind of made sense at the time. So I continued to pursue it, got more certifications, went through the TPI certification, went back, got my master's degree in human movement science, just to get a better understanding of what it was I was trying to talk about day in and day out, and make sure I knew what I was talking about. Yeah. Because now when I look back at my old self, sometimes I think, man, I can't believe the stuff I used to tell people. Everything kind of comes full circle in a way too. Of course. So when you're around long enough, you've been doing it long enough, you sort of get an idea and weed out through a lot of the stuff and get an idea of what is really going to be the most effective, kind of like the minimum effective dose type thing. So the fitness thing started to kind of steamroll a little bit and started to see clients on the pro level, but also just general population, and then opened up here in 2011. Prior to that, I was the fitness director at PGA National for about 6 years. And then opened up here, went on my own, did some work at Old Palm, left there in 2017 to come over here full time. And just been growing ever since. And I would say I have the best job in the world because I get to meet so many different people from all different walks of life and backgrounds. And I usually, what's really good is I get to see the best in people in a way. Now, it's not always great, but I mean, you really do see the best in people when they're around other people that are kind of like-minded, or that they're striving towards some goal. In this case, a physical goal. Yep. Not always just golf, but function, life, those sorts of things. So, everything kind of gets thrown out the window when people come in here. So it's definitely, I don't know what it is, but people seem to be in a good mood. Not everybody, but generally speaking, and it puts me in a good mood. And the people, the back and forth is what I probably like most, the social interaction and everything. And which, when you're building a business, you have to have that has to be a major part of it, because the sets and reps are the sets and reps, the weights. Yes, you want to have some idea about the programs you're putting together. Do they make sense for the client, and are they going to help this person grow? But that's something, if you do it long enough, you start to figure out what works, what doesn't. Exactly. But if you don't have the social component of it, the community component, people need to like coming. And if they really don't look forward to coming, then they're not going to come, because this is not convenient for people.
Exactly.
A lot of our members live in Old Palm. They live in Ballin Isles. They live in communities that already have gyms, so they could go there if they want. But they come here for their own reasons, and I like to think it's because they enjoy it, they have fun, and it takes that kind of effort. So that's another thing that's kind of a blessing in a way, is that we're getting people that are motivated enough to disrupt their day to come here. So, and so now it's grown into something that's continuing to evolve. Where, I don't know yet, but all I know is I like coming to work every day.
That's incredible. And I think, like most people on their journey as well too, I don't think you have to necessarily know exactly what the end goal is.
Right.
Like know exactly what the end product is going to be, and that's part of the fun of like learning along the way.
Correct.
Like you said, talking to your old self, like, if you could go back in time 10, 50 years, your old self, and say like, hey, like this is what I'm doing now, like this is what I kind of like know in life, you'd be like, wow, like wouldn't have expected.
No, I never would have thought I would got into this. I mean, I never would have thought. I mean, I never lifted a weight in my life until after college.
Really?
And then it just, I started to do it very religiously, and it helped my game a lot. And I really enjoyed it.
And
so
I imagine this was also kind of like, you were kind of like also riding that wave of momentum where the kind of narrative in golf switched from kind of like the late 90s, like early 2000s, with kind of like Tiger like being credited for kind of like bringing golf fitness.
yeah, and
When you talk to any golfers in the 80s and 90s and you would go talk to them and say, yeah, I'm going to go lift some weights, or I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go stretch, or they're like, they looked at you like you had, two heads. They're like, okay, like you go do that, but I'm going to go hit balls, or I'm going to go,
right.
But
yeah, if it wasn't for Tiger, I don't know if any of this would have, at least for golf, gotten to this point where it is now a prerequisite. I mean, pretty much every collegiate team has their kids working out. I mean, we when I was in college, we never worked out. We never did any of that. So, I mean, which was kind of crazy, but it's just kind of how it was.
Okay, what you're saying.
Yeah.
What you're saying. And then I want to also kind of like just pull on the string of something you said earlier as well too, where something that I've really kind of recognized from probably the first time we've met, but then as I've spent more time in the gym, is you truly love what you do.
Oh yeah,
day
yeah.
As well too, kind of talk to me more about like that mindset. Is that something that you kind of like grew up like, be that like a mentor or maybe like a father figure or someone close in your life, like kind of like imparted that advice to you, saying, hey, like wake up doing what you love every single day, and life truly kind of be like.
Yeah, I would say not necessarily. I didn't really have anyone like that. My dad might have been somewhat like that. He was very low key in terms of pressure with what I had to do for my life. So I guess that was good, but a lot of it was more, I really never had a fitness mentor either. I had a couple people that I worked under that I felt, knew what they were doing and everything, and I kind of learned from them, but it wasn't for very long. They didn't last for very long. So a lot of it was more self-guided, self-paced education of my own, seeing people in the industry that I don't know personally, but I know through their books and everything that kind of mentored me in that way, indirectly. They don't know it, but, so a lot of it was just reading, learning. I just, part of it.
That entire book, like,
yeah.
It sounds like, just kind of as you taught yourself and as you kind of went out of your way to get more certifications and more education, like you're just a sponge, like soaking it up.
Yeah, I try to be. There's definitely more I can do, but I think too, and I think other fitness owners or trainers around my age will kind of speak to this as well, but you sort of evolve a little bit in your thought process and where you spend a lot of your time. So like in the beginning, it was give me everything. And then you start, like when I was starting out, functional training was like the key. So no machines, nobody can do machines. And then it was kind of like flexibility, mobility stuff. All right, everyone's stretching here, and then it just kind of kept evolving and changing. And then now you sort of see how these things kind of run this full circle way. Now it's like, I look at them like, yeah, machines are good for some people. I think they're very appropriate. Flexibility is good. You want to have some mobility and flexibility, So I've always sort of gravitated towards mentors who have taken on the role of saying, like, it's good to have a general idea of a lot versus one specific thing. It's like, beware of the person who says they know it all, but follow those who seek the truth, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? I don't know if I said it as eloquently as it was written, but something along those lines.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Follow those who seek the truth, beware of those who say they have found it. Yeah. So that's kind of been my mantra since the beginning, and, has it hurt me? Maybe a little bit here and there, but, I try to speak to enough things with the opinions or the information I have. And if I don't know, then I'll say I don't know.
Yeah.
And
to me, that also sounds like it comes with a bit of like humility and kind of like learning along the way as well too, where I can imagine kind of like throughout your journey, like there was a point where you kind of thought, like, not necessarily you knew it all, but you're like, wow, like this is really like a good way to do something. And then either you stumble or either you start to learn something new and you see the world in a different way, and you kind of have to take a step back and think to yourself, like, wow, like I really,
Yeah, in a lot of cases too, the more you learn, the more you realize I don't know. Like there's a lot that I really don't know very well. So yeah, it's always evolving.
Yeah. Transitioning a bit to kind of like how we first met. It was about this time. This was probably like August of like 2023. I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Just closed on my house.
Yep.
few miles away. I remember literally being in my living room at my house the first day I moved in. I didn't have a couch, didn't have a bed. I was just kind of sitting on.
I remember you telling me that.
Like, you sitting on whatever, like a movie chair or something like that. And I just went online and searched like TPI related like trainers, like kind of like in my area, and just I think Google Ads or something.
Well, I'm glad our search engine worked.
Exactly. I don't know if it popped up because it was 0.4 miles away or 0.2 miles away, but I sent you the email and we connected. Kind of take me through your overall thoughts of kind of like, what your thought process is of like kind of taking like someone who has a little bit of experience in competitive golf, or even like me personally, like what you kind of thought when I walked up to you and said like, hey, like, like this is my plan. This is the work I'm willing to put in. This is where I want to get to and where I want to go in professional. Like, kind of like, how did you take that? And
I mean, you're definitely not the only one that I've worked with that has taken that approach. So I've worked with a lot of people that have quit their jobs because they realized that their passion's in golf and they never had a chance to give it their shot. Yep. In your case, and coming out of college, same idea. I want to give it a shot, but didn't necessarily have the pedigree or the background of playing a lot of junior events, that sort of thing, or at the collegiate level. Yep. And I think it's great because, we should all be so lucky too that we can go out and try that, and I think to not take advantage of that is a waste in a way, because you do want to see how good you can get at something, if you put everything into it, especially something that you love. And, the win is just going through the process and the journey, obviously, because, if we look at statistics and everything, it's hard, it's hard to get out there, but the growth that you can experience during those years, the relationships you can build during those years, the improvements you can make in all facets of golf and life, I think are really important that everyone should kind of go through, rather than getting a job that you don't really want to have and, slugging through the workday wondering if I should have done this, 5-6 years from now, you can make a better decision on that. And without really losing time on stuff, So I think it's a good endeavor to do for anyone, I think, who's really interested and is passionate about golf.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And me personally, I've seen kind of that growth and that kind of investment in the process that you're talking about as well too, where, I remember like I came to you and like I said, didn't have much of like a junior playing background or like a pedigree, and was a decent golfer in some respects. But I think there's something we kind of like clued in early on, is that like, hey, like we needed to build a pretty good solid foundation of strength, because if I'm going to invest full time in this game as well too, like I'm going to be practicing a lot, doing a lot. And then also we figured out that kind of like what we know in golf now as well too is like the faster you swing the club, it's just going to be better. Overall.
Yeah.
So we need to build speed in my game as well too. So kind of talk to me a little bit about kind of like just like your plan on like building both strength in a golfer and then speed, and kind of how those two go together.
Well, I think the other thing that I didn't mention too is the fact that you're taking yourself from a very comfortable situation, putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, which I think gets underappreciated a little bit, especially from your background, where you didn't have the opportunity necessarily to compete against these guys the whole time in college, and now you're playing tournaments against them. That takes guts, that's not something that's easy to do. And like I said, I think it goes unnoticed sometimes, but it takes a lot to put yourself out there. So I applaud that. People like yourself, just to tee it up, that's a big deal. And then the physical component, back to your point, there are there's pretty direct correlation now between your scoring average and how far you hit the ball. Yeah. It never used to really be like that. But so the emphasis on distance is something that you have to address no matter what. Like it just especially at the PGA Tour level. It's a little different senior LPGA, but the PGA Tour level, and Korn Ferry Tour, that sort of thing, you have to have it. And so you were a good candidate because you never really were on a structured program before. You never really devoted a lot of, let's say, time towards a program that you were following on a day in and day out weekly basis. So when you're consistent like that, that's where the gains come, So if you're inconsistent, coming once every couple of weeks is something you're not really going to expect to see too much. But when you're consistent, coming, putting in the reps, taking your body to the point where it has to adapt because technical failure is approaching with each set, that's kind of where you need to go with it. And not in the beginning as much, but as you get more equipped within the gym, you've been here longer, your body needs more to make change. And so you're a good candidate for that because you are never been on that. So I give you a program and then you run hog wild with it, and all of a sudden these gains start happening. You start getting stronger and faster. And from a program perspective, it's great to see. At the same time, I try to keep a mindset on like how much load you're taking through your spine, how much strain there is maybe on your joints, your shoulders, your knees, that sort of thing, especially when you're playing in season. So the combination of having an off season is nice because we don't always have that in golf, or we can really work on that. But yeah, we knew we had to get you longer off the tee to be able to compete at that level.
Exactly.
So, and it's interesting for you because you're coming from more of a distance training background than let's say in the fast twitch, sports, right? So you're a runner. So that's fighting biology a little bit there.
That's how my body's kind of
to some degree, yeah. So yeah, you've done a great job with it. I mean, you show up. That's what you say. Hashtag just show up.
Exactly. No, I appreciate it, and like I said, I'm incredibly blessed and grateful that I have a strong community and just like trainers and mentors and friends like yourself that I feel like are invested in
absolutely, man.
Success.
Yeah.
And that definitely plays a big part in kind of like those gains, and it's just like it makes me excited to go to the gym every day. Just kind of like what you were saying is earlier too. I think we have an incredible community here of people that are really just like excited to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Every day. So I'm just curious to hear your kind of thoughts on kind of like, like how you've built that community and that culture of, like you said, like people come excited. And I think that's what's also beautiful about this gym is like we feel in a sense like a family where there's a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different kind of training needs, whether it's, maybe someone in the community that is just trying to work through like either like physical therapy rehab or like an injury or something like that, or there's some high level, top 50 player in the world of the PGA Tour or tennis level, like they all come together.
Right.
And we're all here like to kind of like striving towards one common goal, and we feel like a family.
Yeah, I mean, I like to keep it fun, obviously. That's one of the ways. But being nice, it sounds stupid, but like just be nice, like be empathetic to people, show that you care. I tell our trainers, and I've got this from, I think, Alan Cosgrove years ago, who was a fitness coach in California. He said, only have good days and great days when you come into the gym. On your bad day, you're having a good day. On your good day, you're having a great day. On a great day, you're through the roof. So it's the impression that you're making on the person that's there. They're going to have to spend an hour with you. So if you're not in a good mood or you're feeling distracted or whatever, it's not going to create a great appearance. I think the more you come and enjoy the setting, being around people, it's never forced, but that is the idea. You sometimes have to beat back some of your own personal things in your life, put the smile on, show up. And then by doing that, in a way, it becomes therapeutic in that regard. You know what I mean? So it's a healthy distraction because you are around other people and you're doing stuff that's taking your mind off whatever it is that you're dealing with outside of here. But then you're also trying to reinforce the positivity, of just being grateful for what you have kind of thing. So I guess it's grown that way. There's a lot of friendships were created in here. It is very close knit. For a long time, the gym wasn't this size. Yeah. So, you are a little closer with people and you see them more often, especially around the same time. So you make relationships that way. But that was always my thing. I always wanted this place to be like the third place people go. They have their house, they have their country club, and then they have the gym that they go to. Yeah. And those three places where they feel good and want to get work done and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, of course, man.
Sit down and share.
Appreciate it.
Like, who you are and
yeah.
And your journey and also just taking time to kind of like invest in me and my journey and obviously I'm still on my journey and kind of like seeing where I can go, but I really do feel grateful to be a part of this community and have people like yourself in my life that I truly feel like are just incredible mentors, friends, and people who invest in my success.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm the lucky one.
I appreciate it, Ken.
You got it, bro. Yep, be good.